Welcome to the panel for Diablo 3 What's Next?
Hello, BlizzCon. Awesome. How are you guys doing? How was the opening ceremony? It was epic. It's epic. You're right, and we're going to fix that right now. So who's interested in hearing a little bit about a game we call Diablo 3? Woo! Awesome. So I'm Josh Mosquera, the game director, and with me on stage we have Johnny Ebert, our senior designer, Wyatt Chang.
Hello, everyone.
Senior technical designer, and our lead game designer, Kevin Martins. And we want to welcome you to the What's Next panel for Diablo 3. So let's get right into it. What an amazing year it's been, and let me be the first one, but not the last one, to say a huge thank you for your love, for your support, and for killing all the demons and getting all the loot. You guys have been awesome. The year started off about a year ago when we announced that we were going to shut down the auction house. What did we think about that? That was awesome. And then we followed that up with, patch 2.0 that really brought loot 2.0. And then we followed that up with Reaper of Souls and then the Ultimate Evil Edition. And since then, you guys have, fought Malthael and killed them on both PC and console. And you guys have been awesome, and we really enjoy. But guess what? Now we get to talk about what's next. And for us, death was just the beginning. So, in the last couple of months, we released patch 2.0. We brought you greater rifts. We brought you ladders, also known as seasons, in a whole new area for you guys to explore in the cesspools. But that's not it. And today we're going to talk about all the amazing new things you guys can look forward to in the next couple of months, leading up to what's going to be patch 2.12, which will be coming soon. So what are we going to cover today? A lot of cool stuff. What's new with greater rifts, a whole new area to explore, some more details behind patch 2.12. But we're going to start with one of my favorite little rascals in the world of Sanctuary, the treasure goblins. This is one of the epic moments of playing Diablo. There you are, busy minding your own business, and this little bugger shows up, and you throw caution to the wind, and you start chasing him, often into other packs of monsters, usually with your hardcore character, and you forget you're playing hardcore, and you die. But you chase him because he's going to drop loot, right? And this guy really changes the way you play the game. So we love this guy so much that we decided that we needed to create a whole realm for the treasure goblins, a whole family. You got the trooper, and that queen is still one of my favorite monsters in D3. But we felt that the star, the treasure goblin, didn't get enough love, right? So you probably know that we have the main treasure goblin, and we have a couple of doppelgangers. We have 3 other treasure goblins that all they have is just wear different colored pants. And we felt that was wrong. So say goodbye to them, because they have now been retired. And please give a round, warm welcome to your new treasure goblins. So let me introduce them, starting with the Gem Hoarder. Now, any guess what he drops? Yes. You're going to see him. He's going to spawn in front of his portal. And every time you hit him, gems are going to drop. And more gems. Right? Yeah, look at all those gems. And of course, what's going to happen when you kill him? A gem explosion. Yeah. Because gems are awesome. All right. He's not alone. We have this green guy we call the Odious Collector. Now, what does he drop? Well, he has a thing for crafting materials and plans. So that's exactly what he's going to drop. So as you're chasing him down and you're really looking for those crafting materials, this is the guy to chase, because he's going to drop some pretty cool plans. Some yellows, some greens, and oranges. So very awesome. And the last guy we're introducing today, the Blood Thief. Now, him and Kadala don't get along, and you can probably figure out why. Because all the shards you give Kadala, he steals. So the only right thing for us to do is to try to get him back, right? So there you go. He's going to drop a few shards, some more blood shards. And of course, he's going to drop a whole ton of blood shards. Yeah. Very awesome, isn't it? So, in addition to those 3 new types, we've done a few tweaks to really make the gameplay really come to life. So we have really focused on the visibility. If you notice on the clips, the goblins now spawn in front of the portal. They have more unique sounds, so you'll be able to hear them and see them. But I also figured we needed to make them more interesting to fight. So, that now is a different stagger count. And now they're going to do this really sneaky thing of actually trying to find other enemies to lure you towards. So keep that in mind. And we also created unique mini-map icons for each of the new treasure goblins, so you can figure out when to see them and how to fight and find them. So this is our new treasure goblin family that you guys can expect to find and slaughter in our upcoming patch. Now, speaking of which, I'm going to pass it back to Johnny, and he will tell you about all the changes coming up to adventure mode. Johnny?
Thanks, Josh. How you guys doing? All right, they switched clickers on me here. Give me a second to absorb this. I'm not technically sound. All right, so adventure mode. So in Reaper of Souls, we introduced adventure mode because we really just wanted to turn all you guys loose in the wide world of Sanctuary. Very exciting place. And we didn't want you to have to deal with the restrictions of story mode. We wanted you to be able to jump from point to point without having to go back to the menus. And we also put bounties in to entice you to visit some areas maybe you didn't have time to check out when you were in story mode, like Scavenger's Den. So we sat down and we thought, and you guys have responded with overwhelming enthusiasm. Adventure mode is by far the most popular mode. So we sat down and we asked ourselves, what are some things we could do to make it a little better for you? And we came up with 3 things. So first, we thought we should add a few more legendary gems. Second, we wanted to add some more visual variety to rifts and greater rifts. And finally, we decided to take a look at some of the hub layouts. So let's talk about hub layouts for a second. So we're extremely happy. Did I hear a boo out there? All right.
Wait for it.
So, we're very happy with Acts 2, 3, and 5. Everything's pretty convenient. It's pretty easy to get what you want and get back to slaying out in the wide world of Sanctuary. Now, we have heard some reports that maybe Act 1's a little too spread out. Maybe it takes a little too long to get to the Mystic or the Jeweler. So we asked Deckard Cain, could he do a little research mission for us? And
it's for science.
So his mission, how long does it take to get to the Jeweler? Okay, we're going to check back.
Oh, wait,
we're
he didn't get there.
All right, let's talk about rifts and greater rifts. So rifts and greater rifts, like I've been telling you, Sanctuary is an exciting place. A lot of cool zones, a lot of cool monsters you can meet and kill. Rifts gave us the opportunity to give you even more exciting world to explore. So we could take our terrain, the terrain set, and we can mix it with a different atmosphere, which is the lighting and the ambient effects, and we can mix it with another monster set. So for instance, you could go into Rift and you could get the Heaven terrain set, the atmosphere from Ariat Crater, and maybe like the monsters from Act 2. So it keeps things fresh, and you can kill them, keep killing them. So the problem is, some of the zones from the early days of the project weren't built with this functionality in mind. So let's take Tristram Fields, for example. So if Tristram Fields comes up in a rift or a greater rift, you always start at this freaking bridge. And then you always see the river going up the right side, and you always see the road going up to that little canyon that goes nowhere in adventure mode. And you have to look for the Den of the Fallen or Scavenger's Den in the top right. Plays exactly how it does in story mode. So we took the tile set, pulled it apart, and we made it so any number of layouts and flows could happen. So this is one of a dozen that could pop up. Now the important thing is the entrance and the exit can be anywhere. So it's not going to be like Leoric's Jail where you always start here and you just need to get down here. It's going to feel like a fresh and exciting experience for you. So the zones you can expect these more varied layouts, and again in rifts and greater rifts, are Oasis, Spider Caves, and Leoric's Jail. And then in upcoming patches, Tristram Fields, Festering Woods, And Stinging Winds will actually be making its debut because of the way we built it. It can't actually be in Rifts or Greater Rifts right now. So that'll be an exciting moment for us all. So let's talk about Legendary Gem. How do you guys feel about Legendary Gems? Really? Is that all? How do you feel about Legendary Gems? Okay, now we're talking. All right. So we had a few goals for Legendary Gems. First was add another vector for you guys to get more powerful, get higher in Greater Rift tiers. More importantly, we wanted to give you ways to change your gameplay. And we wanted to give you more tactical variety. And our final fantasy as designers is we wanted to give you the opportunity to create a larger variety of builds, because collectively, you guys never cease to amaze us with the cool and quirky builds you come up with. And every time we see a new one, we all huddle around somebody's computer and like, oh my gosh, they're doing that with our stuff. So we're hoping Legendary Gems will do that and then some. So we pulled the player data, because we are watching you. And there's a lot to be happy about here. So all of the gems are getting a decent amount of play. Now there's a couple things we'd like to see change in the future. Bane of the Powerful, Bane of the Traps, Enforcer, taking up almost half the pie. We'd like to see that shrink. Taiguk, Moratorium, Invigorate, not taking up quite as much pie as we'd like. Now, we don't want to do a redesign, and we don't want to break out the dreaded Nerf bat. So our approach is we're hoping that as we add new Legendary Gems, they're going to cut into the pie of the big pieces. And then as we add additional Legendary items, new sets in the future, some of these that are on the lower end of the pie might experience a resurgence as you guys find really creative and exciting ways to use them. So, with that being said, in 2.1.2, you can expect 2 new Legendary Gems. So we decided to focus on healing and a defensive gem because they aren't getting as much play. Yeah, they're not getting as much play as we'd like to see. So the first one, Esoteric Alteration. I'm going to read it out for you because I know they're hard to see from the back. So Esoteric Alteration. Gain 30% non-physical damage reduction. When you get this Legendary Gem to 25, when you get below half health, all of your elemental resistance is increased by 75%. It's going to be a real lifesaver when you're fighting that really tough Greater Rift boss. Next one, Molten Wildebeest Gizzards. And I just wanted to add, we do not advocate the irresponsible hunting of molten wildebeest. You know, be responsible. But if you do find a gizzard, it's fair game. So it regenerates an eye-popping 50,000 life per second.
Johnny, that's still subject to PTR.
Okay, so you guys can have fun for a little while. 50,000 life per second.
Oh, yeah.
And then after not taking damage for 4 seconds, you gain a shield for 200% of your total life per second. So those are the Legendary Gems that are going to be waiting for you and the changes to Adventure Mode. Now I'm going to turn it over to Wyatt Chang to talk about Greater Rift changes.
Thanks, Johnny. So in patch 2.1, we released Greater Rifts, which has been a huge hit. Have you guys been hitting up the Greater Rifts? But we know that there are still improvements that need to be made to Greater Rifts. You know, a big one that has to do with randomness. On the team, we feel that randomness is a tool to help make the game feel more replayable. We know that you want to do a rift again and again because you're trying to get that sweet piece of loot. And we want to make sure that the game stays interesting and dynamic so that every time you play, it's different. So our general philosophy on randomness is that we're not trying to treat randomness as a goal in itself. We're trying to use it as a tool to keep the replayability of Diablo as high as possible. I'm going to go through some examples of changes that are coming to Greater Rifts and how our philosophy on randomness plays out. So let's talk about pylons a little bit. There's a common thread on the community and forums and so forth that the conduit pylon stands out as a huge outlier, right? People are always talking about how for certain builds, you get to the Rift Guardian and you have your conduit pylon, and that's the only way that you can beat that highest rift, that one that you're about to fail on, and you're just trying to figure out, am I going to get a conduit, am I not? The most common request we get is to remove the conduit pylon. That's not what we want to do. While we are considering some changes to conduit, what we'd rather do is focus on the question, why is the conduit pylon getting so much attention? There's 5 different pylons in the game. Why doesn't the speed pylon or the shielding pylon get some attention? What if they were just as good as the conduit pylon for improving your time? So, on PTR at 2.12, we're going to experiment with some changes to the speed pylon. It's going to last the whole minute instead of 30 seconds. It's going to let you run through Waller. It's going to let you run through monsters and knock them up into the air. We're making changes to the shielding pylon. When monsters hit you, you're going to do reflex damage on them. Also, when the shielding ends, you're going to explode and do damage to everything that's near you at the time that the shield pylon wears off. Woo. So that's kind of an example of how we're looking at these pylons and we're saying, we don't want to take the pylons out because that's going to make every Rift run feel more samey. It's going to actually reduce the replayability factor of the Rifts. What we'd rather do is say, it's not a question of did I get a conduit or not, it's which pylon did I get this time and what did I do with it. We're also looking at how many pylons I get. Sometimes you get one pylon and sometimes you get 6. So we're doing some special, changes to it to make sure that you get, pretty much between 2 and 4 pylons every time. Again, we're trying to keep the randomness in there, but not let it be the sole determinant about whether or not you reach it a high, greater Rift. Let's take a look at another example. Of course, monster density, right? Everyone's favorite topic. We're looking at improving the monster density in all the Rifts that are low. These changes include, making sure that the elites are there, that the normal monsters are there. The theme is consistent. We want to make sure that success or failure does not matter on the random number generator. There's always going to be monsters there for you to slay. The only question is, what kind of monsters are there going to be? And, searching through the dungeon to find a good set of distribution. Of course, there's Rift Guardians. Sometimes you go through a whole Rift and you get down to the last Guardian and you're like, oh no, I got Rhyme. Oh, this is so bad. Don't worry about it. We're looking at that. We're looking at all the Rift Guardians. Again, we don't want to just say, okay, you know what? In order to make this as fair as possible, we're just going to get rid of all the Guardians and just use one, because that's not going to be as interesting. What we're focusing on right now is making sure that every Rift Guardian is memorable for its own reasons. So we're looking at making sure that they have new and interesting mechanics. And there'll be a preview of that later on coming from Kevin about one of the new Rift Guardians. But in general, the idea is, it's not a question, again, you've heard me say it, 3 times already. We don't want randomness to dictate your success or failure. We want it to be, hey, what was my distribution? Hey, what was my Rift Guardian? And your success or failure will depend on how well you change how you play to take on this Guardian. And of course, there's level distribution. Have you guys had levels like this before? So when I see that, I'll be honest, I was like, oh my goodness, that level looks so boring. And then Kevin was like, that's also really fast and efficient and fun, so I don't know what you're talking about.
Right. Wait, I haven't decided there. First time I got one of these, I just got into the highest Rift level, awesome, and all I had was West March Brutes in one of these. So every time I died, because they chain stunned me, I'd have to run, I timed it, 7 minutes to get back to that. So it isn't always quite as efficient as you think.
Well, you don't die, and it's very efficient.
So these distributions are great, but of course, not every level is like that. And honestly, you wouldn't want every level to be like that. I mean, the different tile sets, the different layouts, that's one of the things that makes Diablo highly replayable. So what we are looking at is, okay, look, if there's going to be a dead end, could it please not be a dead end at the end of a super long 2.5-minute hallway? So we're removing all the really long dead ends, so it's never more than like a 5-second backtrack. Or we're also looking at the loops. I mean, loops aren't technically a dead end, but if it's a really big loop and you explore the whole thing, you kind of feel like it was a dead end, right? So we're going to get rid of those too. We're going to make sure that the random level generator and the way that it does the layout still keeps the game interesting and fresh, but again, doesn't dictate whether or not you're going to be able to beat that last tier. And then, it's funny that Johnny and Kevin were talking about death, because another problem with that really long hallway, of course, is what happens when you die. Now, we're not going to change hardcore, of course. You're still, dead permanently. But in softcore, Your success or failure can sometimes depend on whether or not your run back to your corpse is really long. It's a really inconsistent death penalty. In fact, when you look at some of the best clears, sometimes the deaths happen near the checkpoint, because there the death penalty is irrelevant. And if it's at the end of a long 2.5-minute run, you die once and your whole run is basically you're going to fail that tier. So we were looking at this screen and we were thinking, you know, hey, we got this other res at corpse button that we've disabled. What if we turn that back on, but we still want death to have some teeth to it? So again, this is just experimental. We're going to put this up on PTR. We can try it out. You guys can give us your feedback. But we're going to try incrementing a death timer. So it'll be 5 seconds, 10 seconds, 15, each time you die, up to a cap. And that way, the most important thing to take away is death will still be meaningful, but the size of the death penalty doesn't matter on the kind of level that was generated. So it feels more like you were in control. It was your responsibility to stay alive. You didn't. Here's a consistent death penalty. So this, awesome. Good, I'm glad you like that. You know, we should probably take some time out. I think we were talking about Deckard Cain going on that research mission. So let's check in on see how he's doing. Hey, that's not bad.
He's really super slow.
Yeah.
He's not the right person to pick.
All right, well, he's not there yet. So I guess I'll use this time. We can talk about Season 2 a little bit. So Season 2 is going to be on the PTR soon. And there's going to be changes again. Let's take a quick preview of some of the things coming in Season 2. So let's talk about conquests. So as you know, there are 5 conquests, 10 in total, because for both hardcore and softcore, which are supposed to be unique, different ways to complete and play the game. There's some conquests that we like, and there's some conquests that we didn't like. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring back some of our favorite conquests, like the one to get to a high greater rift tier. We really like the way that played out. It really took a commitment from the players to prove themselves to be high on that leaderboard, and we really like how that works. So that one's coming back. How about reach level 70? No, that one's gone. We're not going to bring that conquest back. We're going to replace that one. Why? Well, plain and simply, focusing on getting experience as much as possible leads players to do things that are sometimes repetitive or boring. And we want the player to be doing a variety of fun activities. It's the same reason that we don't have a Paragon leaderboard. You know, people ask, well, there's a leaderboard for greater rifts. Where's my Paragon leaderboard? And we're like, well, we don't really want people to then say, well, I'm going to get to the top of that Paragon leaderboard. Let me go and do this highly repetitive activity and optimize my XP. Now this one's kind of interesting, the Conquest Speed Racer. This one challenged players to finish the entire game from beginning to end in 1 hour. We thought this was really cool. I mean, it's not a conquest for everybody. Not everyone's going to do it. But for the people who didn't want to just do, you know, more adventure mode and bounties or greater rifts, and they said, hey, I've got some buddies. I'm going to get together. It caused people to put together custom gear sets, look at their skills in a different way, maybe even, you know, re-gem in a different way, change what's going on, and coordinate and plan with their teammates to kind of say, how are we going to finish the whole game in an hour? We really like that it put an interesting twist on how you normally play Diablo. So here's the 3 conquests that we're bringing to Season 2. These will be joined by 2 old ones. I'll let you guys take that in a little bit. Again, as you can see, the focus is on playing the game in a different way. You're not going to get these conquests by accident. You're going to get these conquests by saying, hey, I want to do something different today. Look, no one's done this conquest yet. Or, oh, I could still be in the top 100. Let me try and do this. You're probably going to need to plan. You're going to need to think about how you're going to achieve it. You might need to change your gear a little bit or your skills to do that one. Except, well, the last one for lore, because we know that there are some people out there who really love to collect those lore books. It's a different way to play. Not every conquest is for every person, but we want to try and encourage these different play styles. So also coming in Season 2, is the new transmog. So we release a new 2 pieces of the transmog set every season. For those of you who have a level 70 in Season 1, you're going to get your helm and shoulder piece. If you get a level 70 in Season 2, you're going to get the legs and the boots. And then here's a preview in Season 3 what the full set will look like. All right, let's talk about legendary items. So I'm going to preview 2 legendary items, and these 2 legendary items are both season-only legendary items. So I don't know if anybody here has a Jade Harvester Witch Doctor. Anyone? Yeah? I love playing my Jade Harvester Witch Doctor, and this staff is really inspired about being able to change up that gameplay a little bit. Yes, you're going to cast Locust Swarm. I also want to point out this staff always rolls with 21 to 25% increased poison damage as well. In fact, you don't even need to be a Jade Harvester to make this work. I mean, you might be a pet build or fetish build, and you could still use this staff and just have the Locust Swarms coming off without the skill even being on your bar. Here's a video of it in action. Notice as the video plays, when the Witch Doctor runs around, you don't even have to stop to cast Locust Swarm. It just comes out and starts affecting all the monsters around you. Another legendary that we're going to look at, this one's for wizards. This one's for Energy Twister. It has a chance to pull enemies in. For this legendary, we really liked Energy Twister, which was seen a lot before Reaper of Souls. But since then, Energy Twister has been a lot less popular. That's because, quite simply, there's not a lot of legendary items that go well with it. So we're fixing that. Again, this will be a season-only legendary. Let's take a look at the gameplay on this. Yeah. So that's going to be good times. All right, so I'm going to pass off the mic now to Kevin Martins, our lead designer.
Thanks, Wyatt.
So that's just a sneak peek of items. We're showing a lot more at tomorrow's Evolving Reaper of Souls panel, and we'll talk more about that in a moment. We have something special coming there, too. Ancient items. So essentially, with Reaper of Souls and with Loot 2.0, we completely changed how we gave out loot, the rate at which we gave it, and so on. And I have a simple diagram here to show you the difference between that. So this is Blizzard. We're Barbarian Santa. And that is a sack full of legendaries that are raining from the sky all the time for you guys. Okay, so that's good, right? Like being much more generous, way less stingy than we were when the game launched. That's all good. We don't want to change that. However, that means some players who are particularly lucky or have played a ton have actually maxed out their sets. They might have a set exactly what they want. They might have it on even every character, good rolls, and they ask us, hey, I like playing the game, but I sort of run out of rewards that I'm actually looking for. Can you guys do anything about that? Well, yes, we can. So coming in 2.1.2, this should start feeling exciting again for max-geared people because we have ancient items. So this applies to all legendaries and all new legendaries going forward as well. It's an entirely new tier for them. The short version is it's up to 30% better. And these are available starting in Torment. And the higher you go in Torment with your current max-geared characters, the higher chance it is that any item will roll as legendary. So getting right to an example. Maximus, one of everyone's favorite swords. This gives you your own demonic slave on a fire chain, nice tactical weapon. This is a pretty good Maximus, and this is an ancient Maximus, and look at all those green numbers. So this is coming right away on PTR as well, and again, let us know what you think about that. This should give a longer tail to the people who are really max geared in the game. So this will again apply to all new legendaries as well, including all the cool ones we're showing off tomorrow. So we have a whole new zone for you guys, and this one you can play if you haven't already on our demo just over there on the show floor, and this is the Runes of Sescheron. We had a game we released a little while ago, quite a few years. It was called Diablo 2, Lord of Destruction. And I have here a edited version of the opening cinematic, and in this, a barbarian lord confronts Baal, the Lord of Destruction, with his demonic army. This takes place in front of the gates of Sescheron, and you'll see, you probably remember what happens next. So let's watch that for a second before we show you what this area looks like.
Baal, the gates of Sescheron have stood for eons beyond remembrance, and you shall not breach them now. Remove your foul demons from our lands. We stand on the side of light. You shall not be allowed to reach Mount Erfährt. And that which you seek will not be yours.
Okay, so I grabbed that part of it because it shows you an establishing shot of Sescheron and what's about to happen to it when Baal sends his army forward. This is going to be a new area in adventure mode. It's going to have bounties. It's going to have new monsters. It'll be near Area Crater in Act 3. And this, what you see on the show floor is just a very basic version of the ruins. So a lot of the decorative elements aren't there yet. It already looks pretty cool. But what I have here is a bunch of new things you're going to be seeing when the zone's finally done. So as you can probably tell, Barbarian is one of our favorite classes and has been for years. It's the only one that came forward from Diablo 2 exactly as is. And the artists are excited to be able to actually show you things from the Barbarians' homeland. You know, this was once a mighty, proud people. They lived in a super harsh land, and they built an extraordinarily massive city, and it was wiped out in basically a day by the Lord of Destruction. So those remnants of it that are left, including your own Barbarian that you play in Diablo 3, they could do nothing but come back to Sescheron and bury the dead. So in the final version of it, you're going to see a lot of funerary art, pyres and so on. So it's going to have basically a lot of melancholy to it as well. So we also have a lot of traps as far as gameplay goes in this area, and this stuff is on the show floor. So rather than showing you videos of these traps in action, I'd love you guys to go and play and give us feedback on what do you think. So here's the giant swinging blade traps, and this is quite the hazard. The monsters move in and out of these. You're weaving through them, trying to avoid them. And then these are spike traps. These have a nice tactical element to them. That shield in the middle, you can safely stand there and you can click it and spam spikes into any monsters that you've kited into that area. So this is a very interactive trap as well. Good tactical ability. And we'll probably keep pumping up the damage on this because, well, we love spikes. All right, so a new zone is not complete without new monsters. This year, you may remember last year, we unveiled a whole bunch of Reaper of Souls monsters, including the Reaper family. And back then, we also had the Bog family. So we are approaching monster design based on families of monsters, groups that come together, big brutish monsters, little swarmers, etc. This time around, we are trying something different with the monster team. They were working instead on classes of monsters. So the first three I'm going to show you are swarmer monsters, and that's what are in the ruins today. So we are doing all the swarmers at once, and that gives us the ability to have these monsters stand out from each other. They fill the same tactical role, but putting them right next to each other really puts the onus on us as designers and monster makers to have them not play all the same way. So the ruins are empty of civilization now, so monsters have come up from the forests and down from the mountains and infested the ruins. It's an entirely new monster called the nausea beetle. So these are kind of little fiery bastards. They've got a spit attack as well. They're very easy to kill. So these ones aren't too hard, but they do have that fire attack. Frost maggots, however, when they die with this freeze attack, you can really get into trouble. They're very easy to kill, but when you're swarmed by those, you have to be careful because other bigger monsters around them might eat your lunch. And then we've also done a little bit of revisiting some of our favorite monsters. It's nice to get another chance to try something out. This was based on the sand wasp. This was a monster that was so beloved or behated, if that's a word, that it even has memes about it, right? Oh, the bees with their spit attack. These guys are different. By the way, I miss how much damage that did. I liked avoiding that. Killed me many times, and I'm unhappy that we nerfed that. We should pump that back up. Anyway, these guys are a lot more aggressive than them on the actual physical level. They burst out of these glowing nests. They come right at you. They do have a spit attack, like the other wasp, but they use it much less frequently, and there's a lot more of their stinger in action there. So this is a good monster, very aggressive. All right, and then we have one more monster we're showing today, and a sneak peek of another one, and this is the Rat King. If you don't know, well, you know, we have a history of having very gross monsters in this game. I'm going to say the Queen of Greed that we showed earlier, or the Lord of Gluttony from Act 3. This one is really the most disgusting thing we've done. Please, if you have children in the audience, please cover their eyes. if you're faint of heart, you might want to. This is gross. Let's just get to it.
Yeah, I'm a little tryptophobic, so I won't be watching this.
Okay, if you're not Googling tryptophobia, that is a fear of organic holes and the things that might come out of them. And being Diablo, nothing good's going to come out of this. But teasing enough here. This is the Rat King. This is the basic concept for it. Okay, so no, that's gross. You've seen gross stuff before. No big deal. Yeah, that's pretty gross. Fine. All right, so here's the model. This is the process by which we make these creatures. This is sort of a twisted natural creature that appears in the world of Sanctuary long before demons became a problem for humans. This was already a very deadly world. And then here, a final version of the model. So quick behind-the-scenes story on how this monster actually plays before I get to the good part. This monster had antlers. That's that twisted nature theme. He originally had a teleport attack. And we changed it in the demo on the floor that he's got a burrowing attack instead. So he comes out of his own organic hole before, I'm getting ahead of myself, before other things happen. And we took, once he went to a burrow attack, the antlers really didn't make sense. So we took those off, and we'll probably bring them back on another behavior later on. But this is the final model of the version you play in the game. Okay, so here's where Wyatt has to turn away.
Yeah, I'm not looking.
Okay, what's popping out of his back are slimy little albino rats. Every time you hit him, rats come out and attack you. Every time he sees you, he shakes his back, and a whole bunch of slimy little rats come out and attack you. When you kill him, a whole nest of rats come out and attack you. And they're gross and they're wet, and let's get right to the gameplay video here. This, by the way, is the new Rift Guardian, Hamelin, the Rat King. Oh, there's those rats. Oh my God, rat tornado right there in the middle. Their tails are tied together. They're coming at you, watch out. This green ring keeps you trapped with Hamelin. You can only use your movement abilities to get out. Another rat tornado. Can our monk survive? And watch his back. Splat. So that is where rats are born in the world of Sanctuary. So, thank you. You know, I do not know what's wrong with us either. Okay, so you'd better kill him before he kills you, because otherwise undignified things are going to happen. Okay, that's great.
Do it again. And this is why we did the panel after lunch. So.
All right. Okay, so there's other monsters that we didn't have ready for a playable state. Everything I just showed you can play right now, right over there. The Yeti family is coming as well. So Yeti's another monster from Diablo 2 that we liked, and we're going to put our own Diablo 3 twist on these things, and we'll try not to be quite as gross as the other ones. But this is a monster we're working on right now back at the office, and hopefully next time we get together, you'll be able to fight these things in a build. Okay. Oh, hey! He made it. That took a while. All right, Decker Kane, please report in with your official time. How long does it take to get to the jeweler? Okay, that is more than fair. The good news is we fixed it. In Act 1, everything is super close to the hub in the town portal. It is no longer faster to go to Act 3, do your shopping, and come back to Act 1 anymore. All right, so this is how long it takes to get to the jeweler now. Ta-da! Magic. All right. Okay, so of the stuff we showed today, what's coming when and how? So again, patch 2.12 is coming very soon. Very soon is a registered trademark of Blizzard Entertainment. The treasure goblins, all those treasure goblins are coming, and
Maybe more.
maybe more. Season 2 will be there on PTR with all the conquests. We'd really like you guys to spend some time playing that, as well as the new legendaries that are with that, and the new legendary gems. Adventure mode improvements, everything we talked about with greater rifts and adventure mode is coming in patch 2.12. And a little salve for poor Kane. All right, in future, as of yet unnumbered patches, the Runes of Sescheron will be coming. New monsters, not just the ones there, not just the Yeti, but more than we can't show today quite yet. A whole bunch of new legendaries. And more stuff, more things, more features, and so on. I noticed that Ancient Items is missing off this list. That's coming in patch 2.12 as well. So tomorrow and today, we have what we're calling the Legendary Workshop. This is working with you guys as our community to build a legendary together. We've been already gathering ideas on Twitter and so forth, and we've got two special things happening as well. At the community booth, we're going to be looking for volunteers to come on stage and actually participate at a whiteboard, an actual whiteboard used for legendary design at the office, with us on stage to design legendary based on some of the ideas we're putting forward. Furthermore, at the community booth, for the next hour, hour and 20 minutes after this, Wyatt and Travis Day, one of our item designers, will be at the booth accepting your ideas. Please come and give them. They do not have to be complete ideas. You don't have to know what type of item it's on. If you just have the gist of an idea, like, wouldn't it be awesome if the barbarian had a two-handed weapon that was actually made of a monk in spiky armor who's just keeping his body rigid.
Any ideas? Any ideas is fine. Over at the community booth.
Right, and so our job as designers and with our guest designers from the community, we'll be trying to turn those ideas into some sort of reality, something we can actually get in the game in a future patch. And lastly, I want to say that this has been a crazy journey from us, from before Diablo shipped, with all this anticipation, the highs and lows of launch, all these patches, Reaper of Souls, etc. You guys have been with us from the beginning. You've been very patient, very helpful. We've spent a lot of time in this game. We put our hearts and souls in this. Thank you for being here. And I hope you guys come tomorrow to Evolving Reaper of Souls. We're going to show off a whole bunch of new legendaries and a lot of behind-the-scenes stuff. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
I believe we have times for questions.
All right, questions. I think we have one mic over there, and I think that's it. Are you ready?
Whoa, that's weird.
Whoa, yeah.
Years and years ago, at a much earlier BlizzCon, I think right after D3 was released, I asked Jay Wilson whether or not he had any plans for Uber Diablo. And at the time, he said, well, you guys got Inferno, and so maybe after that. And now you guys have added so much other stuff. Uber Diablo, what do you say?
What do we say about Uber Diablo? Yeah?
I think we have spoken about Uber Diablo before, and we haven't built one yet, but certainly it's been on our minds. Thus far, we've focused on brand new monsters and some of the other Uber fights, but yeah, it's been talked about. I mean, we're not associating this with any patch or making any promises, but yeah, it's a good idea. Hopefully Diablo's had enough space that an Uber version of them will feel fresh now, so good idea, thank you.
I just want to say thank you for such a great game that you guys done so far and actually listening to the community.
Thank you.
Maybe you'll go over this tomorrow, but my question is instead of seeing like an orange color, could we actually like change it ourselves to red or pink if we wanted to for kicks and giggles?
This is applying to legendary items?
To any item. To where
Okay,
we
so
could change
the
color.
question is, can we change the drop color of the items or something like that?
Yeah.
To be honest, we have no current plans to do anything like that. I hadn't actually heard that request before, but certainly we can discuss it. Thank you.
Thank you.
How you guys doing? My question is, when the season ends, and all of our previous everything of season 1 rolls into the previous season, or basically as existing characters, how is that going to work for your items and your stash rolling into your, say, previous characters we had before?
So how does seasons work, your items work with seasons at the end?
Yeah, so at the, well, just to recap, so everyone knows, at the end of season 1, we want to make sure that any work that you've done for season 1 rolls into, what we call the main economy. So like you said, all your gold will carry over, your Paragon experience will all carry over, all of your characters will come over, your items will actually be mailed to you. There's a custom UI that our engineers have been working on. We couldn't merge it into your existing stash. So in the same way, if you guys have ever purchased like a collector's edition or Reaper of Souls, or sometimes you get the wings, or the various things that way, the pet if you pre-order Draenor. So the items from season 2 will be, season 1 will be sent to you that way as well. Oh, and your blood shards will carry over as well.
Hello,
This question could be as controversial as the real money auction house, so get ready for it. I'm wondering, one problem that a lot of people always have in Diablo is things like stash space, character space, and stuff like that. Is there any possibility that we might get something similar to the Blizzard store in WoW, like in-game microtransactions where you can buy stash space, character space, potential transmog type things and stuff like that?
So are we going to have a store where you guys can buy more stash space? That's something that, I mean, who doesn't want more stash space, right? Everybody, right?
have 5 more
something
tabs.
that, not specifically the store aspect of it, but this is something that comes up, and we're always sort of discussing and talking about it. And we know everybody wants more, and if we give you more, you want more, and you want more, and then eventually all the internet will be your items, and then people will be upset at us. So, but yeah, it's something we're thinking about. We know that it's something that we want to try to address. So, wait out.
Hey guys, so you guys talked about changing level layouts and mob density and all that. Right now it seems like there's an issue where people will fish for certain rift layouts and certain mob types, like Act 1 mobs versus Act 5 mobs that are terrible to play with. Do you guys think that what you're doing is going to be enough to stop people from fishing for those greater rifts to get those higher rift levels?
Yeah, I mean, I think, oh, I'm sorry, you want to repeat the question? All right. So the question is about the rift layout and whether the monster distribution and people are fishing for them. So what we're trying to do, like I said, is to allow randomness to make things replayable, but we know that there are some monsters that just stand there waiting for you to kill them. Zombies are always used as an example. It's like, oh, sweet, I got a nice little zombie distribution. This is going to be good, right? And that's not sarcastic. It's like, yeah, we're going to clear this super fast, and I'm going to get tons of progress globes. So we have, internal to the office, we use a term like paper cut monsters is what we call them. Just the idea that there's these monsters who are kind of generally damaging you a lot, and then there's monsters who actually cause you to react to the way that they're behaving. We have large tanky hit point monsters, and we're trying to make sure that you're not getting the same population of monsters every time, but you are getting a fair mix so that the swing of how successful you are is not so dependent on the monsters that are rolled. So that's another axis to look at.
I did want to add one thing to that. The monster team is spending some time working on the new monsters we showed you. They're spending some time adjusting some of the more irritating monsters to fight. Some of the Act 4 and 5 ones are a little exhausting to fight. And so while they're worth lots of experience in the Rift, and so sometimes you're going to avoid them because they take too much time. So I think some of that's going to happen in 2.1.2. Some will happen in future patches. We'll make some of the monsters more equitable in that way as well. So someone really likes that over there. Thank you.
Hi. When you showed the ruins of Sescheron, I got really excited, and I was wondering if you were going to explore other territories that have been spoken about but never visited in game, like Ore, Skosglen, Zainisai, Skobos, that kind of thing.
We have no further announcements to make at this time.
Hey, so I've been a Diablo fan since the very beginning, and first off, I'd like to say, Josh, you have really done a great job bringing the game back to its roots as far as gameplay is concerned. There's one aspect, one major part of the Diablo experience, and I know you know it's missing, is I want to be able to trade. The account bound system, are we going to revisit it? Is there something going to happen where I can at least get new people in the game and say, you can have my old stuff?
So first I want to say thank you, but really, it's the team as a whole who really got behind all these changes, right? So I might be the guy that sometimes does all the talking, but really I'm standing on the shoulder of giants, and it is these guys and their blood, sweat, and tears that really allowed us to make the transition. So on trading, I guess I'll start at a really high level, and we talk a little bit about this tomorrow at the Evolving Reaper Souls panel. Like, we understand that there is a social dynamic to trading and also like a utilitarian dynamic to it. But trading also, like at a fundamental level, also has the potential to wreck the reward loop, just like the auction house did. Because if a friend gives you a really overpowered item, is essentially what your friend just did is remove the option of you getting upgrades for an X number of hours going forward. So I mean, right now, I think we're pretty happy with the sort of ecosystem that we've created with Loot 2.0. So I think for now, I think the plan is the status quo and see how it keeps sort of evolving. Thank you.
I guess what I'd add to that also is there are types of trading we might like to see in the future, like we saw on console, like player gifts or the Nemesis system. The ways of interacting with your friends in ways that keep the reward loop intact and keep the core experience intact. So you might see things like that in the future.
Just want to say thanks a lot, guys, for all your hard work. I'm really looking forward to all the changes. I've been playing Diablo for a long time. I know I don't really look it, but played the original Diablo, Diablo 2, all the expansions. I gotta admit, I didn't really play Reaper of Souls a lot on the computer version. I've been playing a lot of the console version because, let's be honest.
You're right to do that. I just want to say that right there.
Who doesn't like to go home and kick back on the couch after a long day at work? I tell you what, one of the things I was really disappointed about hearing was that there wasn't any plan for seasons in the console version. Any thought of doing that in the future, or any reconsideration or anything like that?
Yes. We would love to bring seasons to consoles. Problem is, a lot of console players weren't online, so we had to allow offline mode on console play. And as soon as you allow console offline mode, it just wrecks the integrity of anything like seasons and leaderboards. So that's exclusive to online mode only. But we're always looking for ways to improve the console experience and keep it awesome for you. Thanks for playing.
Hey, first of all, thanks. But my question is, in my experience from playing a shit ton of Diablo, the main gripe was like, in the new seasons, it's great. It got me coming back to the game after I quit. But the problem was that with adventure mode being unlocked at the beginning, it became pointless to do the story mode because I'd fall behind so fast. So is there any idea of creating adventure mode being locked at the beginning and you have to play the campaign? Like, for example, I cleared it, I'm on a couple of the leaderboards, and my character hasn't done the campaign yet. So it's a bit of an issue there.
Yeah, that was something that was discussed, and when we decided to do, is going to be either adventure mode to be unlocked from the moment one, or it would be unlocked normally by killing Malthael, or perhaps by reaching a certain level or something like that. We did it this way, and we're going to leave it that way for Season 2. We are going to probably visit story mode with conquest, like maybe getting some of the lore books might happen only in story mode, so you have to pick certain parts of that to go and get the lore books and so on. So visiting back and forth between modes is generally good. Obviously, adventure mode is our primary end game, so we don't want to spend too much time in campaign mode, but having people go into it for short periods of time probably is good. So perhaps in future seasons, we will once again require you to, say, run the campaign once real quick before you unlock adventure mode or something. But for now, we'll leave it unlocked from minute one, and it's kind of fun, right, with a level 1 character, no movement skill, etc., just jumping into a rift and going for it, right? But yeah, we see your point.
What's up, guys? I know you probably can't answer this question, but are we getting another expansion?
You're right. We can't answer that question.
But we are going to continue to bring you awesome stuff and patches like we've been talking about today. We can definitely promise that.
Hello. Well, my question is about not greater rifts, but the trial rifts. So, in greater rifts, you mentioned that you want to have the rift guardians fair for everybody, so that you don't just get rhyme, blood, mine, can't finish it. So my question is, do you plan on tweaking trial rifts? Because when an exorcist pops up on wave 5 and kills me at range instantly, and I place at 22, it's frustrating. Do you plan on maybe tweaking the enemy types that appear in those rifts?
Yeah, there's changes to trials coming as well. Those will be on PTR as well. We've gotten a lot of feedback on the trials. We're looking at the pacing of the trials, the monsters that are in trials. We want to make sure that, I think just last week we changed it so that all the monsters in a trial can be vortexed or knocked back, so that you can use your Raycore set or whatever may be. And we're also looking at making sure like the wraiths should be there, do some damage. What we try to make sure is that was actually a reaction early on when trials went live. We had people who would play and maybe they'd get to like trial wave 18, let's say, and they're fine, but they weren't taking any damage at all. at 10 and 15. And so we want to try and make sure that it's a more consistent progression all the way up.
Hello guys, well, I'm just going to say that about trade, I'm entirely on the other side of the problem. It was the best thing to actually happen to Diablo for me. The new loot is better, and this leads me to my actual question. Your new ancient items, how rare are they? Because in specific cases, like the furnace, for instance, if it's 1.5% of 5,000 item drops, when am I going to get an ancient version of that?
So how rare are the ancient items? Before I answer that question, I'll make it clear that the ancient items is very much for the people who are really into completing their sets. And what we're trying to address is, I've got my 6-piece set, and sometimes there's this feeling like I got my 6-piece set, and now I don't feel like I have anything to strive for anymore. And so I want to make sure that we're understanding that this is for people who already have their 4 or 6-piece set. And we currently, we're looking at about 5 to 10% chance for any legendary item to be ancient. I think it starts at 1.5. Don't quote me on that because it's going to change almost certainly during PTR. But that's at Torment 1, and then scales up to Torment 6. If you're in Greater Rifts, your Greater Rift will affect it as well. So starting from an early Greater Rift all the way up, the higher the Greater Rift, the more chance that you have. I would use, if you guys remember in Diablo 2, like elite and exceptional elite items sort of as a reference point where their drop rates were 5 and 15% respectively. So we're kind of looking about that. Again, we're saying, hey, this feature is for the people who really appreciate having something to always try and hunt for that's better than what they have right now.
Hi. Do you currently have plans to implement an item creation system similar to Diablo 2's rune system?
A lot of the crafting systems were there to try and capture some of that spirit. I understand it doesn't entirely. I think what the rune system did really well is it had you more excited about the components that were dropping, right? If you could get a really rare rune. Right now it doesn't feel like any of the legendary parts are rare. Early on, if you remember in Reaper of Souls when it first came out, we had these legendary pieces that would drop around, and those were supposed to kind of capture some of that feel, but unfortunately what it really led to is people flipping games over and over to try and get that bone shin or whatever part it was that you were trying to get. So I totally recognize the desire to slowly make incremental item progression towards the completion of a really great item. We didn't like the rune system in particular because it required you to open up a website and have all these, arcane knowledge, right, that a person who's just playing the game might not even know that these recipes existed. So we'll be looking at other ways to try and capture that spirit.
Okay, we're almost out of time. Give us your fastest question. We'll give you our fastest answer.
Yeah, hi. Really quick question. What do you guys want to do about balancing potential build outliers like the Demon Hunter M6 that can run away from damage and deal damage that they're not directly doing?
We are directly answering that question tomorrow. It is something we're thinking about. If you come to the Evolving Reaper of Souls panel, that and answers like that will be discussed. All right, thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for attending the Diablo 3 What's Next panel. Up next, the Hearthstone Fireside Chat panel.